Hey guys, let's get more news about Steelers, but first, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. First call, Mike Tomlin addresses Arthur Smith's hiring, Mason Rudolph's departure, Cole Holcomb's health. Pittsburgh Steelers coach Mike Tomlin shared some background on Arthur Smith's hiring, Mason Rudolph's departure and Cole Holcomb's recovery. A Steelers rival gives opinions on the franchise's quarterback situation. And a Robert Morris men's hockey goalie has a pro contract. All that in Monday's First Call. While at the NFL meetings in Orlando, Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin spoke for the first time about his decision to hire Arthur Smith as the team's offensive coordinator. And, to the surprise of no one, it sounds as if Tomlin is attracted to Smith's run-first mentality. "I respect his approach to ball," Tomlin said. "His values are very evident in looking at his tape, and they are aligned with things that we value, controlling the game through our bigs and building from there." It also appears that Tomlin was influenced by some feedback from former offensive line coach Mike Munchak, who worked with Smith in Tennessee. "I've got close relationships with some people that were really significant in his development and helped him establish some things that he strongly believes in," Tomlin added. "Guys that I've had an opportunity to work with, like Munch, for example. It was really a great deal of comfort. And, beyond comfort, it was a great deal of excitement in terms of bringing him on board." For as much as Tomlin may be intrigued by Smith's dedication to the run, how he can get the most out of Russell Wilson, or Justin Fields, as the team's quarterback may be the biggest X factor in terms of the offense's success or failure this year. Tomlin also briefly discussed the departure of quarterback Mason Rudolph. He signed in the first week of free agency with the Tennessee Titans after leading the Steelers to the playoffs with 3 straight wins at the end of the 2023 regular season. "He was a member of the free agent market that we had personal knowledge of and a positive experience," Tomlin said. "So, certainly, we were interested and open to doing business with him. But we evaluated the entire market and made decisions that we thought were best for us." That's an understandable enough response related to signing Wilson as competition for Kenny Pickett. But remember the timeline. It became known that Wilson was going to sign with the Steelers late on a Sunday night, March 10th. Rudolph signed in Nashville on Wednesday afternoon, March 13th. Pickett was traded on Friday, March 15th. Calling it a good move, Mike Tomlin supported Steelers trading Donte Johnson to Panthers. Kenny Pickett may have sought a change of scenery that led to his trade from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Coach Mike Tomlin, though, didn't get the same feeling about wide receiver Donte Johnson, the other prominent player the Steelers traded this offseason. The Steelers sent Johnson, their most experienced pass catcher, to the Carolina Panthers in return for cornerback Donte Jackson. Johnson was entering the final year of his contract. Asked whether he thought Johnson was frustrated with the organization, Tomlin responded, "I did not. We got an opportunity to get D-Jack, a guy we valued several times since he's been in the league," Tomlin said on the first day of the NFL annual meeting. "We needed some assistance and depth at that position, so we made the move. They needed Donte, we needed D-Jack. It was a good move." Jackson fills the void at cornerback created by the release of Patrick Peterson and a desire not to retain free agent Levi Wallace. He will be paired with second-year corner Joey Porter Jr. Conversely, the trade left the Steelers thin at wide receiver. George Pickens and Calvin Austin, each entering his 3rd NFL season, are the only returning contributors from 2023. Van Jefferson was signed in free agency, but his best season was in 2022 when he had 50 catches for 802 yards. "There are a lot of options there," Tomlin said. "There are still a lot of capable guys on the market. The draft is unusually deep there and has been. The Steelers are expected to target a wide receiver on the first or second day of the draft." Tomlin raved about the Steelers signing inside linebacker Patrick Queen to a 3-year, $41 million contract while also luring him away from division rival Baltimore. Queen is the latest player the Steelers will try to solidify the position since Ryan Shazier's spinal cord injury in 2017. He's an all-situations linebacker. That is exciting, Tomlin said. He's a guy who is a three-down player, a guy who can do a lot of things. He can tackle, cover, blitz, and he's 24.5 years old. He has a great combination of youth and experience. That is the reason we are excited about bringing him aboard. I can't tell you how exciting it is because of familiarity. Queen was 1-7 against the Steelers during his 4 seasons with the Ravens. The Steelers still haven't signed a center in free agency, increasing the likelihood they will use their first-round or second-round pick to address the position. Top draft candidates are Oregon's Jackson Powers-Johnson and West Virginia's Zach Frazier. Nate Herbig, whose primary experience has been at guard, remains on the roster. We've got some work to do there, Tomlin said, adding, we'll get something done at that position. Tomlin also isn't ready to move 2023 first-round pick Broderick Jones back to left tackle. Jones started 10 of his 11 games last season at right tackle, while Dan Moore Jr. stayed on the left side. So much is ahead of us in terms of player acquisition, Tomlin said. Where any specific player ends up is subject to who else is on our roster. Mike Tomlin confirms Steelers have long had interest in CB Donte Jackson. Pittsburgh Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin disputes the notion that the trade that brought CB Donte Jackson here originated from a request by Wr Deontay Johnson to find another home in the NFL. At least, he denied any knowledge of that during his comments at the annual league meetings yesterday. Instead, he played up the trade as the Steelers landing a player they've long coveted, which aligns with Jackson's comments. He said after the trade went through that Tomlin and Pittsburgh pursued him every step of the way. Tomlin basically said the same thing, or close enough to it, via Joe Rutter of the Pittsburgh Tribune-Review. We got an opportunity to get D-Jack, a guy we valued several times since he's been in the league, he said. According to Jackson, Tomlin heavily scouted him during the pre-draft process. He also said the Steelers were in the market for him when he signed his second contract and wanted him at last year's trade deadline. Tomlin wanted him 4 years and years. Call it delayed gratification, but now Tomlin has Jackson in his secondary, starting opposite Joey Porter Jr. The 28-year-old veteran brings 14 career interceptions to the table, though he posted 0 in 2023. He tore his Achilles during the 2022 season, so should look closer to his old self this year, in theory. A second-round pick out of LSU, Jackson lacks ideal size for a boundary cornerback, but he has great speed. He still showed his quickness a year ago returning from that Achilles injury, and the Steelers secondary can use speed. Reporters such as Jerry Dulac beat the drum, calling the Johnson trade addition by subtraction. Naturally, Tomlin paints a different picture, but I think we can ascertain that they value Jackson significantly as a player. After all, I have no reason to believe that they didn't pursue him via trade last year. The Baltimore Ravens recently acknowledged that they tried to trade for RB Derrick Henry last year before signing him this offseason. Those things happen all the time, and Tomlin already acknowledged several times that they valued him. And what do you suppose he means by valuing? Reasonably, he's referring to opportunities to have added him to the roster in the past. For what it's worth, Brooke Pryor of ESPN quoted Tomlin as saying evaluated, which is contextually synonymous. The point is, they showed interest in him numerous times, and now they have him. The Carolina Panthers drafted Jackson 5 spots ahead of the Steelers in 2018, the latter selecting Wr James Washington instead. At the time, they had Joe Hayden as their top cornerback and still entertained notions of Artie Burns' long-term viability. The latter ended up rotating with Cody Sensabaugh that season before losing his starting spot. On top of everything else, Jackson agreed to a pay cut in coming here, so the Steelers netted some cap relief as well. That obviously suggests that Johnson was the higher-valued player in the trade, as we know. but everything we hear indicates that the Steelers genuinely valued Jackson rather than accepting him as a consolation prize.